Welcome to Filmblade. In this new episode of Film Grasp, we are going to take a look at advanced 16mm film grain compositing techniques in DaVinci Resolve. Film grains are overlays used to imitate film look on digital footage. These overlays are usually composited using blend modes. But if you take a look at the footage shot on actual real cameras, you will find film grains only appearing in the shadows or midtones, and not so much on the highlights. So, in today's video, we are going to take a look at how we can composite film grains on our footage based on distinct luminance values and learn a more robust and advanced way to achieve that effect. We're going to be using our 16mm Pro 4K film grain pack to demonstrate this technique. You can find 16mm sample stills in the description below. Let's get started. We have this footage in our media pool ready. For grains, we're going to be using our 16mm 4K film overlays. We will select Ultra Fine Grain, right-click, and add the media pool as matte. Let's switch to the Cut workspace and add the footage on the timeline real quick. Now head to the Color workspace. Let's quickly make some room here. We won't need a gallery. Hide the timeline and clips as well. Make some space for the Node Tree panel. Now, begin by making a new node, a serial node, and we will make 3 parallel nodes. And from each of these 3 parallel nodes, we'll create one new outside node. Let's clean up the node graph so it's easier to see what's going on. Change the parallel mixer node to the layer mixer node. What's going to happen now is, we are going to use the 3 parallel nodes to select different luminance values and feed those values to the outside nodes, which will hold the grain matte. Right-click on the first outside node and add matte. Choose Timeline Mattes, select our 16mm grain overlay. This will create an external matte. Connect the output of the external matte to the input of this outside node. This will automatically override this previous connection and feed the values of this parallel node into this outside node, like this. Do the same with the other 2 outside nodes. Connect the output of external matte to inputs of outside nodes. Go to the layer mixer and set the blending mode to hard light. Let's give these nodes a new name. Right-click, select Node Label, and let's call this Shadows. This will be our midtones. And likewise, this one shall be our highlights. Now, with the highlights node selected, go to Qualifier and turn off Hue and Saturation. We will now select a luminance range, and since we are in the highlight node, we will select a bright spot here. If you are not seeing the selected highlights like this, then press Shift-H. As you can see, we have our luminance range selected. Since it's the highlights, we can increase the high to include the rest of the brightness. Increase the low softness. Repeat the same for our midtones. Disable Hue and Saturation. And select the skin midtones, perhaps from here. Let's soften it up to make our selection smooth. Same with the shadows. Find the right spot for it. Somewhere among her hair. Since it's shadows, we can extend the lows to cover the rest of the selection. And finally, soften the selection. If you press Shift-F for full screen, we can see its effect. But some of us may find grains to be too hard on highlights or too soft on shadows. Since we composited grains based on selective luminance range, we can control its effect. So what we can do is select our highlight node, go to Key, and decrease the grain output to 0.5, or maybe even lower, like 0.25. In the midtones, we can set it to something like 0.6. And in the shadows, we can punch it up to 1.2. Let's check the results now. We are only seeing grains in midtones and shadow, and not in the highlights. We can change it as per our requirements anytime we want. We can select all the nodes and mixers and create a compound node to keep things clean and organized. It's a good habit to follow, because when you're working on big projects, the node tree panel can become painfully complicated otherwise. You can even go one step further and apply LUTs on this. We are going to be using 16mm LUTs from the grain pack itself. Go to Settings, Color Management, open LUT folder, and make sure you have your LUTs pasted here in this folder. Click Update Lists and save it. Now, it's always a good practice to make a new node for a new step. So, come to the base node and add a serial node before. Clean it up. Rename this one as LUT. Right-click, LUT, 16mm LUTs, and we have many options here. For now, we will choose Arcturus. And it is giving this cold steel or sci-fi look. Let's retrieve our skin tones back. Punch up the gammas, and push the midtones to warm red. Press Shift-D to check its effect. And this is it. This is an advanced way to composite film grains. You can find 16mm sample stills in the description below. If you are serious about leveling up your post-production game, check out our high-end 16mm Pro 4K film grain pack, along with other premium assets at filmblade.com. We've attached the links in the description. Also, this video is part of our filmmaker series called Filmgrasp, where we throw light on advanced post-production techniques. Subscribe to level up your filmmaking game, and follow us on Instagram at Filmblade to stay updated. That's it for now. Until next time.